into this because of a number of things that have changed over time. Mm-hmm. So when they talk about abstinence, I think that what we need to do is to bring them up to date and help them to understand that worked back when. It's not going to work now.
I don't think people have the fear of hell like they used to.
I use that as an example of the fact that it was a different time.
But you're only going to be able to...
Whether it was because we fear our parents or whether it was because we knew we'd be shamed or whatever it was.
Yeah, but I don't
it worked because that was...
Not so much.
Pre-sexual revolution. That was...
Pre-birth control.
I think, the first half of the movie Pleasantville.
The part of this component, to my thinking, and we're in a watershed moment with the church, I think. That's my personal belief. Because 98% of the women that are in the church use birth control, despite the fact that the church says that that's not something that they believe in within their ideology. Okay, now that puts the church in a direct conflict.
All they have to do is look
at church.
All they have to do is look in the pews and see how many kids are sitting with the parents. It used to be
how many grandparents are raising their kids.
That's right. It's an obvious issue, but for some reason, the only place it's not obvious to is the church. Okay, so when again, going back to the hearing that Isa had, where he had all this clergy sitting up there in front of him and them discussing how, that whole moment of them men sitting there and talking about, the government should not be able to force us to provide something that we don't believe in.
Yeah.
Okay, now all of the people that, not maybe all, I don't want to be like Senator Kyle, okay, but the people that go to church that are using contraception, but yet the church is saying, I don't believe in contraception and I don't believe that I should have to provide or pay for. Now the church has stepped outside of what used to be their role, which was spiritual, tax exempt, places for people to go. Okay, however they chose Wednesday and Sunday, right? So right, and it sort of helped form how we went through society and who we looked to help us with certain situations. Their role has changed. And we have changed as a people. So I see the church as being part of this bigger discussion in the long run myself. I just see us having this fight that we're getting ready to have is going to involve the church. I just don't see any way around it because it's in direct conflict.
I really don't think that we will ever successfully legislate moral issues.
You can't. That's right.
Absolutely.
And when we say we define moral issues and we say that is in a moral issue category, that is a place for the church, and that's where the church should be leading their flock.
That's why it's not in a democratic society where we have the separation of church and state. Preface it with that, because if things continue to go in the direction that some people would like them to go in, we'll no longer have that.
Well, here's the real danger. Here's the real danger whenever you get into legislation of religious issues or values, and we're in a country where we're freedom of and from religion. Do you start to determine whose religion are you going to legislate for?
Exactly.
Because we've got too many different religions in this country, and it's not just Christian. And that doesn't mean
that stepped over those lines big time.
And Islamic faith, Muslim faith. If you read any of their books, they're not their interpretations. They have very extreme factions that interpret that they've got to kill the infidels and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But most of, you go back to the origins, the first part of every one of the books, they're all very similar. Now, how the book progresses, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, again, it's not up to us in this country to legislate how you will believe or what you should believe. Our laws should be to protect our individuals, to protect Americans, everybody, and give them a safe place to worship in the way they choose or not.
Devil's advocate again, Mark. The unborn, protecting the unborn. That's.
But again, when you start legislating these moral issues, then you're on a very slippery slope, because what happens and it could happen somewhere down the pipeline, maybe 100 years from now or sooner, but we could have a Muslim majority in the House, a Muslim majority in the Senate.
Which state was it, Mary? You might remember. We talked about it, I think, last week, that wanted to declare in their state policy that life began 2 weeks before conception.
Arizona. Yeah, it was Arizona.
That's ridiculous. I mean, guys would have a really big problem.
So if life begins 2 weeks before conception, then what they're really trying to do is declare that a person, obviously,
before it's conceived.
And why would they do that?
That was a good snort, by the way. That was a great snort.
Why would they do that?
I have no idea.
Okay, because that's another little Republican that they can count. That's somebody they have to protect.
The thought?
Yeah. That's somebody, that is a human person that they need to protect.
And these are guys writing those bills. Do you know how many women are almost pregnant walking down the street just because a guy looked at them? I mean, this is,
it gets crazy. It gets crazy.
Okay.
Mary's got some.
I know, I can't say what I was going to say because it's
good,
bad.
because I don't want you to run down that road.
Don't get bleeped.
I want to go back to the whole religious moral issue. Quit dragging me off of that, because I want to know. Because everybody goes, well, that's ridiculous. It truly is ridiculous that, possibly Muslim or possibly Islamic. Honestly, the GOP has got a Mormon sitting at the top of their ticket right now. And have you ever read the Book of Mormon?
Yes, they're not Christian.
I don't want to get into what you believe or what I believe. I'm just saying.
The fact that
he does not believe in Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior.
That's
so
in the
not
Book
Christian.
of Mormon.
A minority religion.
That last part of that is very judgmental.
God is on a.
What absolutely is a fact is they don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God.
Yeah.
That's an absolute fact. Now, the rest of that was a judgmental statement.
Well,
I'm not going to go there.
A Christian is a person that believes in Jesus Christ. That's the absolute thing. So if you had a Jewish person, they believe in God, but they don't believe in Jesus. So,
well,
but
where you're going now is going to get into interpretation of personal belief.
Yeah.
What is a fact is that we
have a presidential...
the rest of that is interpretation.
Okay.
What is a fact is you've got a GOP candidate at the top of the ticket who is of a different faith than most of, especially in the Bible Belt. And so it could go that direction anytime. And so do we really want moral issues brought into the scope?
I know my answer. But you bring up a very good point. And a fact is, look at how they're supporting Romney, even within their own party. You've got a lukewarm reception at best. You've got people that are I'm going to support the GOP because I'm not going to support Obama.
They're not really comfortable with their
That's right. They're not comfortable with him.
But they're only not comfortable with their ticket because they want to stay on the moral issues.
That's right. Their ideology.
Now the problem is if they go that way, now if Romney were elected, the commander-in-chief is going to have a different point of view.
Mm-hmm. And the role of women in that is a whole other subject. You could do a whole show on there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting to me about the fact that Romney's a Mormon, okay, and I'm no expert on Mormonism, but I know that what you said is true about their core belief system. Separation of church and state, okay. Because he's running, this is not an issue that he's a Mormon. According to them. According to a lot of people. Okay, he gets the nomination, and heaven forbid he gets elected president. That's going to be a huge issue for everybody, because Mormonism is not Catholicism, Judaism, Protestantism. It's not any of those regular religious philosophies that we're fully understanding.
Yeah.
Well, we live in a country where you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe. We have
Right.
freedom of religion.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you
they-
have
and
a
just
right
like
to
all
believe
those
wrongly.
They're different.
Is
I
what
mean, they're
they-
all different.
You know, Rick
So-
Perry,
Everybody's different.
our governor, when he was a candidate for president, was endorsed by Reverend Jeffers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Reverend Jeffers publicly stated that Mormonism is a cult. That's a belief, but it's a fact that he said that.
Mm-hmm.
Perry did not disavow this, and neither has Jeffries backed away from that.
Yet they endorse him.
Yet they endorse it.
Well, they've got themselves in a bit of a problem here, because they've got a choice between they're either going to vote for the Mormon or they're going to vote for the black man, who they think is a Muslim. Okay, so in their minds, they're taking the lesser of what they consider to be the two evils.
I thought Obama was Methodist. What is he?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. That whole Muslim thing that they keep trying to hang on him. I mean, he's not a Muslim, but that's what they try to portray.
The Reverend what was his name again? Reverend
I'm sorry.
Obama's.
Jeremiah.
Right.
Right. Reverend
yeah.
Wright.
Yeah.
He was Baptist, right? No.
Oh, Baptist? Okay.
I think he was.
Well, Baptist and Methodist are so close.
Well, that was the church. That definitely was the church that he was on the rolls as belonging to for a number of years. So.
Right. I guess my point in going that direction, aside from the fact that y'all keep attacking me on other issues, so I'm trying to
you
get
just wanted to get away from the bathtub thing.
I get away from it. But to go and drive the stakes down and say, okay, here's our GOP candidate. There are people in this country that do believe that Mormonism is a cult. Now, I don't want to upset any Mormons out there. I know you've heard it. It's not something
Not
I'm
news.
saying. It's just
Not news.
it's one of those
Right.
facts.
Right.
But we are in a country of freedom of religion, and so whether
Right.
because someone believes differently from you, we have a tendency to like to label and call names.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a good tool for divisiveness.
Right.
Well, there are definitions to go by. I mean, there is a definition of a cult,
You have to sell flowers at the airport.
and it fits. Mormonism fits
Right.
that definition, so
Oh, okay. Well,
it's nobody's fault.
Maybe
yeah,
that's what we
I
needed, a
guess,
Hare
you know,
Krishna.
But where I'm going with that, again, is on the religious issues. Whenever we get religious people involved in legislation, who, in fact, is going to be the person that we will legislate for? Because anytime you legislate for any religious group, you have upset another belief.
That was the
That's
whole
the
premise
point.
behind it. Our forefathers had the wisdom to allow or to put in place that separation of church and state. They were smart when they did that, because religion, everybody has such, most people have their own beliefs, and we're not all going to come together on that. We just have to respect one another.
And that's the shame of it all, that this has become such a big issue, because everybody has their public face and their private face.
Mm-hmm.
And how and why we got to this point is just mind-boggling.
Now let's tie a bow on this.
Okay.
All right. So what we've got is we have a legislature who wants to legislate on religious beliefs or moral issues. They want to put in laws like